Yes, hi all, welcome. So here we go. So basically I've got a leaking fuel accumulator on the DeLorean, which is basically housed in the middle of the car. Really awkward place. So whilst there's minimal room to get in there, if you were to break down and have an issue with that, realistically you're going to probably have to get the car, low loaded home up spec, because you do need to jack the car up high. Very tricky job to get to, so I thought what I would do is I would improve the system on it. So what I did try to do initially was, where it's leaking from, I just tried to sort of tighten up the nuts, and the nut was literally as tight as it went. It literally moved nothing at all. So I removed it all, and basically it's leaking from the olive fitting on the accumulator. And on the accumulator, I'll show you in a minute, you've literally got enough room basically to get that one hand in there, and you need to have the car jacked up high. Obviously if it's on a lift, it's it'll be obviously clearly easier, but basically it's a tricky situation. If you have this an issue when you're driving the car, you basically gonna have to realistically get this car low loaded home. So I thought, I want to improve it and change it basically. So initially I ordered the olive and the repair part. So if I quickly flick around to here, so I got this part here, which is the part that was leaking from there, and the olives as well. And excuse if they're not called olives, but someone called them olives on the forum. So I've got a couple of olives here, a couple of spare one as well. Basically mine was leaking from this part here. It's just spraying out. In a second I'll quickly show you the pipe. What I decided to do is, rather than risk using the original stuff and including this piece here, which was basically quite rusty on the fuel filter end, I thought, I'll just design my own pipe. I've got this custom made from a local pipe shop. So this piece here normally would attach to the accumulator. It was not leaking from here, it was leaking from, say, here, from the fitting here, which effectively was this piece here with the olive, and obviously straight in a pipe sort of coming out at an angle here. So what I decided to do was to design this sort of shape here, which therefore negates the need to have sort of the two fittings here. This piece here can just go straight onto the accumulator, and obviously this part here clears the accumulator, because the accumulator, the connection is here, and the accumulator finishes about 3 centimeters in. So that then should then sweep around the side of the accumulator. This part here will then run down a better position of the chassis, because basically, in a second I'll show you, but you can't get to the metal pipe. So once the metal pipe is gone, you have to lift the body shell off to get the old metal pipe out to replace it, for example. So this was a good technique. All braided, all pressed together, all done properly. And then this end here, which attaches to the fuel filter. Now normally it would go, say, into this piece here, which I've retained. So the fuel filter's here, into this elbow here, and then it would then go into this piece here, which obviously is attached to your metal length of pipe. So I've decided to keep a similar format to that, but obviously just better quality. So this piece here effectively is a replacement for this. So that should make it quite a nice installation. So if I quickly get underneath the car, I'll show you what I mean. Right. So go underneath the car. I say it's the most awkward place. There we go. So here's the accumulator here. What this does is it holds pressure in the system. So when you sort of run the car and then you stop the car, it retains the sort of fuel pressure, so it sort of starts up much easier the next time. And basically you can see there, that's the old pipe. Obviously I bent it out of the way. That pipe there would normally be sort of straight and then enter at a sort of 90-degree angle into that fitting. So I just bent it out of the way. But basically what people can do, they suggest, is obviously if it's not leaking, you need to replace the olive. Obviously to replace the olive, you have to cut the olive off. And from here, you have to realistically, I'd imagine, use a Dremel to get in there. But of course, a Dremel, and you've got fuel, and you've probably got fuel left over in that accumulator. I don't want to risk, setting my car on fire potentially with me underneath it by cutting that off. People will say, hey, you can cut off a centimetre of the pipe and put a new olive on, but this is not enough. And also my pipe as well is quite sort of, it's not very smooth the rest of the way down, where obviously it's been, held with pliers and all sorts of tools over the years, so, and it's slightly bent as well, so it's just not worth risking that crappy old bit of pipe summary. That pipe there, so it goes into the wall here, in between the body shell and the chassis, so you can't replace it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my pipe through this factory hole here, next to the gear shifter, just through there, and I'll then run it down past the gearbox mount, and then straight here into the fuel filter. Nice and easy, I would imagine. So I'll use the existing L bend on here, elbow piece, which doesn't leak, and then my new braided line comes straight down here, straight into it. Cable tight up as necessary. Happy days, I expect. So that's the plan. So yeah, let me get to it right now. Here we go. So yeah, excuse the filming. Yeah, looking good in there, and obviously I need to run it in a second and check that it's not leaking. I will say that I made the hose too long, because when I gave the measurements for the hose, I didn't sort of expect these components here to be so long. Initially I just thought it'd be the hose, like effectively pretty much straight into this. So you know what I mean, I've got an extra, you know, 3 inches of space there. If I flick to the back, that fits beautifully through that hole there. I'll put a bung in there as well, just to centralise that. But that fits really nicely. And again, I didn't expect that metal piece there to be that long. So I've got the measurements for this, but ultimately, yeah, you need to, if you're going for anything like the same as this, then yes, you will need much shorter piece of hose. So I'd say I'm about sort of 6 inches too long, probably on the hose. But yeah, that went in much easier in there, just having to do one coupling rather than trying to sort of do multiple couplings. It's just a bit neater, that's all. You know, it's just neater when you're in that situation. Right, there's no leaks. Right, no leaks obvious. That looks absolutely perfect there, so that's good. Happy with that. I'll tighten up those screws in a second. This one here, there's definitely a leak there. Tiny little tweak with the spanner on there. The way to test it is putting a white bit of cloth on, because obviously you better see the fuel, if there is any fuel. Just installed some new pedal covers as well from DMC. I'm just cleaning the carpet as well, actually, whilst we're in there. Looks good. Beautiful. Loving it. So that was much easier using that new hose. Just off for a minute. Oops. Right, that's good. So yeah, that does away with a little bit of that, and just put it in some brand new stuff. So highly recommend it. And that hose came from Thread and Pipe Services, but definitely get it shorter. I will mention in the comments what length of hose it is minus, and then you can minus about 6 inches. Cool, thanks all. Cheers.